Hey and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my October wrap up. I am sick, so that is why I sound like this. So we're going to go through them in the order in which I read them. First up is Broken Fae by Suzanne Valenti and Caroline Peckham. This is the fourth book in the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac series. So if you don't know, this is a prequel to Zodiac Academy, which is taking place at a different academy following our main character Elise, whose brother died, and she does not think it was suicide the way that everyone else is saying that it was suicide. So she comes to the academy to find out what happened to her brother and kind of get revenge, and it spirals from there. So I gave this one 3 stars. I've liked a couple of these books in the series, but this one had a lot of potential to be really good, but it just didn't give me what it needed to give, especially seeing as how it's the second to last book in the series. So I'm hoping the last one will be better. I'm really excited to finally be through with this series so I can go back to Zodiac Academy. So yeah. Next up we have Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is the second book in the Maple Hills series. So the first book was Icebreaker. This follows another one of the hockey team members as he's going to go work at a summer camp this summer, and he spends a night with a girl who he thinks he's never going to see again. He shows up at the summer camp and there she is, and they have to work together all summer. This was really cute. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I had really high hopes after reading Icebreaker because I loved that book, but I feel like this withstood the hype. I think it was still really good. I mean, it's not the same, but they're still both very good. I was really down for all the cameos. I really enjoyed seeing previous characters from Icebreaker in this book as well. It was really cute, fun, quick read. Next up was my week that I read thrillers. So we have A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. So this follows our main character Chloe, who when she was a younger girl, 6 girls in her town went missing and her father ended up confessing to the crimes, and now years later girls are going missing in her town again, and she's starting to think the two are connected, and she starts to get involved in kind of this investigation. And this was actually really good. I gave this 4 stars. I did not, I should have seen it coming. I know a lot of people say that this isn't really a plot twist, like it kind of just develops and you figure it out as you go. But some of the stuff that happened I was not expecting. Some of it I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Some of it I was just like, what the heck did I just read? It was really good. I could not put this one down. I really enjoyed it. So definitely pick this up if you haven't already. Next up, we picked up The Retreat by Sarah Pierce. This is the second in the Detective Ellen Warner series. The first one was The Sanatorium. Again, it's like a whodunit thriller mystery. They are on this retreat. People start dying. She comes and starts investigating, trying to figure out what's going on, who's killing people and why. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite. There were things that I was like, oh, and it did shock me a little bit. But for the most part, like, it was just, I don't think that I love mysteries that much. Only because I've read enough that I feel like they're all the same. So it wasn't bad, but it wasn't like my favorite either. Next up, in that same week, we have Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica, what was that? Oh, that was my bookmark. I don't know how to say her last name, but this follows the story of, it's got a couple of different perspectives. So essentially, this girl goes missing, and then 2 weeks later, this man's wife and his daughter go missing, and the daughter shows up years later, and it goes back and forth between present day with the daughter showing up and years ago, 11 years ago I think, when the daughter and the wife went missing, with multiple, like the husband's perspective, her brother's perspective, the mom's perspective who also went missing, leading up to what happened for them to go missing. And this one was really good. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I was like, I should have seen it coming, but I definitely was not thinking that deep into it when I read it, and it was a really fun read. This one I literally could not put down. Like, I read most of it in a day and I just couldn't stop. I had to know what happened. So I really enjoyed this thriller as well. Next up, I also listened to the audiobook of Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton, which is talking about him growing up on the set of Harry Potter, essentially. I don't really know how to rate memoirs because I feel like that's just different than reading a fiction book. I did give it 4 stars on Goodreads because I did really enjoy it, but also I was like, it's a memoir. Like, how do you rate? I just don't know how to rate them. But I did listen to it as an audiobook on Libby, and this was like my book that I listened to in the car on the way to work and on the way back from work on my lunch breaks and stuff like that. I really enjoyed it. I'm normally not a nonfiction girl, but it's narrated by him, so I really liked hearing his perspective of growing up with all of that, because I couldn't imagine being a kid growing up being on Harry Potter. So yeah, that was my nonfiction of the year, the first nonfiction of the year. Next up, we have a book I checked out from my library, and that is Some Shall Break by Ellie Marney. This is the second book in the None Shall Sleep series. I'm not sure what the series is called. I think it's just called None Shall Sleep. It picks back up with our child prodigy. She escaped a serial killer and helped with the FBI in the first book in order to catch other serial killers. And she also talked to some serial killers in prison. And she was working with a guy who, his dad was murdered by one of these serial killers that they have to talk to. And so they're both teenagers who like team up with the FBI to help catch killers. It's YA. The only reason I checked it out in my library is because I want the paperback version for my shelves, and it's not out yet, and I've been wanting to read it. So I just went ahead and checked it out. It was also really good. I gave it 4 stars. I really love this series. It's very Silence of the Lambs, okay? Almost 2 Silence of the Lambs. I think that there's going to be a 3rd book just based on the way this ends. It very much so ends similarly to Silence of the Lambs, but with teenagers. So I definitely recommend this one as well. Next up, I read Crush by Tracy Wolff. I actually audiobooked this. I do own it, but I audiobooked it, and it was a long audiobook. It expired on Libby, and I had to re-get it just because that's how long it was taking me to get through this. But this is the 2nd book in the Crave series, which follows our main character, Grace, whose parents die. She goes to a boarding school in Alaska that her uncle runs, finds out that there's a bunch of supernatural creatures. We have vampires, dragons, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, there's like kind of a love triangle. I don't even think it's really a love triangle, but there's kind of a love triangle. The ending of this book, I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm currently listening to the 3rd book on Libby. It's about to expire, and also my library is getting rid of Libby, so I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. I may just have to buy the book and finish it, but I am like a couple hours into the 3rd one because I did not expect to like this series as much as I do. I didn't want to read it initially, and my friend forced me to read it on when I did my Friends Let Me chose my TBR video. I'll link that up here. He chose it for me, and I was like, I really don't want to read any of these books. And now I'm obsessed with them. So I'm really glad I did. I gave this book 4 stars. It's just fun. Like, there's something about it that's just fun. Like, is it cheesy? Yes. But I love it. Next up, I read Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This follows our main character who her cousin has gotten married and is sick, and so she goes to see what's going on because she writes a kind of a crazy letter to their family, and so she goes to stay at this house to see what is going on, and she starts seeing things in the house, and it's just kind of creepy. Like, they're trying to figure out what's going on. This book was really good. I gave it 4 stars. It reminded me a lot of What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, but oh, it was so good. Definitely creepy. It did take me a little bit to go through because it's not like the fastest moving book, but it is suspenseful. And I did really enjoy this one. I'm glad I've put this off for way too long, so I'm really glad I finally read this one. Next up is another book that I actually picked up from my library, and that is Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. This is the same author that wrote Luckiest Girl Alive. It has the Netflix movie about like the school shooting. This one is essentially like a fictionalized version of when Ted Bundy broke into the Chi Omega house and killed some of those girls. So she is the president of their sorority, and she like survives through this, and then she gets into contact with someone from another state who believes that the people who the person who attacked her sorority sisters is the same person that is the reason that her, someone she knows is also missing. This was extremely good as well. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't really know much about it going into it. It actually is due today, but I'm sick, so I can't take it. So it's just going to have to be overdue. But I actually really enjoyed this. If you are interested in true crime at all, or you know anything about Ted Bundy, I think you will enjoy this book. It was quick, super quick read. I couldn't put it down. It was pretty good. So I definitely recommend this as well. Gave it 4 stars. Alright, and then the last book that I read, I finished this last night, was How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I love Grady Hendrix. I don't think that I need to keep saying that at this point. I think everyone knows. I actually only gave this 4 stars though. So this book follows Louise, who gets a call from her brother that both of her parents have died in a car accident, and she has to go home. And they're trying to figure out about their funeral arrangements, if they're going to sell the house, all that kind of stuff. And weird things start happening in her house. And it is haunted. So they have to figure out how to fix that in order to be able to sell the house. And let me tell you right now, warning, if you don't like dolls, don't read this book. It freaked me out. There was a lot happening. It wasn't my favorite Grady Hendrix book. But I did really enjoy it. So there were parts of it that were kind of like, okay, this is a little much. But I did really, really enjoy it. So I gave it 4 stars. I definitely think it's creepy, and this was the perfect read for Halloween. I really wish I had finished it earlier, but I was sick when I started it, so I didn't read for 3 days because I was literally dying. Because I ran out of time to read some of my other spooky reads. But I did give this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I'm currently reading A Curse for True Love, but I've seen a lot of people saying that they didn't like the ending and that it was not up to their expectations. So I am kind of worried about that. But that is what I'm currently reading, and then we will see. November I'm leaving as a very open month so that I can kind of just read what I want to read without worrying about a TBR or a specific theme. I read a lot of thriller, a lot of horror. Well, not a lot of horror, but a lot of thriller this month, and I'm very burnt out on it. So I want to be able to just go back to just choosing what feels good. So that's what I'm going to do for this month. This was probably fast and not the best, but I am very sick. All the cuts are going to be where I was coughing and had to cut it. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.